with you here today is like being with family for me. I don't feel a boundary between you and me, even though I'm standing up here. In the last 3 years, in particular, I've worked with a lot of women in the childcare sector, and together with teachers and nursing staff, I hold that women in this sector are the backbone of our society, poorly recognised, poorly paid, not fully appreciated, as so often is the case where women take up the dominant role. I have the technical aptitude of a potato. Hands up in the room who can look at technology and bugger it up. I just want to feel good about myself. I refer to myself as a loving disruptor. It's important for me because I will say things to you that might seem provocative or make you at times feel a little bit uncomfortable. But I want you to know it is done with great love and a fundamental belief that as women, we have a huge amount to learn from each other. As women, I don't think we're hierarchical. We, at our best, don't look at someone up here and see them as iconic and someone we need to learn from. You and I all know that we give each other advice all the time. We ignore that advice if it doesn't interest us. We pay attention to it when it does. We kind of verbally groom each other with words. And I think that is our gift, actually. I think that we're coming out of a terrible I era that is taking us to the edge for our species. And it is the gift that women bring that I think is possibly one of the most sustainable advantages available to us today to secure our children's future. So it's important to me that there's a lot between us that is worth learning. So a bit about me. Well, like all of us, I'm a mum. I have 4 children. Hands up who've got kids of their own. Yeah, hands up who don't. So hands up who've forgotten how to make them because you're working too hard. So I'm, like many people, a blended family. My first love in life when I was 9 and he was 12 and he gave me plasticine for Christmas was my best friend, still my best friend. I married him for 7 years and then did a Barbara Cartland and fell in love with someone else. But we've retained a close friendship. He and his then partner, after myself, were witnesses at our wedding. We were witnesses at theirs. And we are godparents to his children by his second marriage. In fact, my husband looked after his children while his wife went to work. Don't tell me you're not impressed by that. That's pretty neat. We were perpetually impressed. In fact, my father was the speaker at their wedding because his mother was convinced my husband was wearing his pants and was setting up a lot of confrontation. So my father spoke. So what does this mean to me? Family is everything. But I think at our greatest family is us. You know, it's very easy to love the ones you love. Can you love the strangers that you don't know? Can you love the people you haven't met and recognise their humanity? So I have effectively 4 children, 3 boys and a daughter. I'm married to someone who, you know, when the stars are out of the night sky, I'm sure we will still love one another. I like food. Hands up who like food. You can tell. So, you know, I'll never be that little waif that I once dreamt I would be. I've reconciled myself to the fact that I like food and weight is a consequence of a disproportionate love of food. Reading, exercising, doing all the things that are good in life. My absolute passion is you. And more importantly, the children that you're charged with caring for. So there is nothing that I do in any day of my week that doesn't have you and children at the centre of what I stand for. And I don't say this lightly. I say it as one of those people. There are kind of 3 concentric circles that bring me to your table. One is I'm a leadership expert, and I've had 30, 35 years of exploring leadership from my own mistakes initially, and then progressively building expertise about how people build sense of self, how we identify ourselves, what styles of leadership are effective, what the impact of a leader is to culture and climate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I had to face, as I'm sure you are well aware, that the practice of leadership is collapsing globally. Hands up who are aware of that. The practice of leadership is collapsing. Hands up who are aware. Hands up who are not aware. So trust is the measure of what we think and feel about leaders and our willingness to collaborate and join with them. And Edelman do the world's biggest measure of trust. And last year, trust, and if you want to go online, look at the Edelman Trust Indicator, and it sits in leadership at around 30%. That means potentially 70% of the global community doesn't trust its leadership. That is a terrifying statistic, because I want you to imagine a fork in the road. And on one side of this road is continuing with the practice of leadership as it's manifesting today. And on that side of the road, there is distrust, there is siloism, there is hoarding, there are building walls, there are not understanding or valuing diversity, there's closing down. It is the language of them and us. That's on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side is a more enlightened approach. It's collaborative, it's inclusive. It has a legacy mindset. We think about the world we will hand over to our children. The world is tilting massively, as you can see on the left-hand side. And I would personally wish that Trump is an accident of fate. Anyone else feel that way? Yeah. Have you watched the Netflix series yet? Who just said yes? Isn't it, don't you want everyone to watch that? Knowing deep well that those who love him will think it's a fantastic symbol of his success, and those who are concerned will go, oh my God, look who we've got as President of the United States. So that tilting it was predictable. It was predictable 10 years ago. It was, for me, predictable 15 or 20 years ago in the work that I do. And so I've come to understand that what we want and hope for in leadership is not manifesting in a common space. So leadership for the greater good is the right-hand fork in the road. And it brings me to you and how I value you and all the work I do with women like you and the men who care to understand that they may be the very people to make a difference. So what you will see in the way I hope I can help you today is 3 things that I hold to be unbelievably important for all of us. We have to be able to say to ourselves that what I want is in fact what we need. I don't care where you are, if you're in a family, is what I want in this family what the rest of the family wants? Moments of truth question for you, and we're going to come to this in more detail shortly. Hands up who like to keep their house tidy. Hands up really high. Everyone look around at those beautiful hands. That's a big slab of you. Hands up if you like to keep things tidy and you have children. Okay, hands up if you like to keep things tidy, you have children, and you go into their rooms and say, dear God, this is a bog hole. Clean your room up while you live. In my house, you live by my rules. Hands up. Hands up high. Look around the room at those little hands. So I've come to understand the fear that drives that in women. The lack of awareness that sometimes our ability to do an amazing amount is causing problems in lots of spaces. I'm not saying we're the cause of any serious problems, but I think it's holding us back. So I'm saying to women everywhere, ask yourself, is what I want what we need? Now, I promise you, in law, your children have equal right to where they live, to where you live, whether it's you've paid for it or not. So they have the right to keep their rooms as they would wish. But you also have the right, when they go off to school in the strangest uniform without matching shoes, not to take responsibility for that. Instead of being anxious about, look, you can't go to school like that. You just can't. You've got to do your homework. Well, no, actually, they don't have to do that. You want them to do that for a suite of reasons. And so one of the things I'm saying to women everywhere is be sure what you want is what we need. I'm also saying that to leaders in all levels of hierarchy. We're coming out of an I era which is killing us. Number one. Number two, you must know yourself if you want to be sure that what I want is what we need. You can't do that if you don't know yourself. Because I promise you, what you hold unconsciously trips you up. And this will take us to the language we, particularly as women, use about ourselves in the world. So, number one, what I want must be what we need. Number two, this notion of inside out. If you've got some things inside you that worry you, your inner demons that you don't talk to anyone about, you see them, you feel them, you know them, you recognize when something causes you to behave in a particular way, then it will trip you up in terms of understanding where others are coming from. You may think you're a people person, but you want to, ask yourself, are you a people person or a people pleaser? Look, lots of noddies in the room at that point. We're all in good company. This is a big thing for women. We worry about whether we're lovable or worthy of love. We worry about whether other people approve of us. We worry about doing things the way people expect. We say we care about people, but what we care about is fitting in, having a place, being liked, being recognised, being seen. And then some of us are feisty as all batshit. Some of us are just bossy. Hands up who know they might have a little bit of the bossy streak. Go on, hands up high. The hands are going like this. From where I sit, that's a lot of you. So you get, bossy because you feel like you need to control things. You're afraid that if you're not in control, you're out of control. If you don't have power, you're powerless. If you're not winning, you're losing. And sometimes at your most extreme, you argue, you attack, because the alternative is you get attacked. So you fight as the first line of defence. Now, what I've come to understand, this sense of self, this inside out, is what shapes our ability to be sure that what I want is what we need. And the third element is for the greater good. I've learned in the last 3 years, has anyone else taken, bless you, my pleasure, has anyone else taken 76 scientists to Antarctica? Do any of you want to take 76 scientists to Antarctica? No. So, in October of 2014, I didn't know I wanted to either. And I have come to learn more in the last 3 years about myself and about women at the prime age of 64 than I thought in a million years I would come to learn. I've come to learn how vulnerable women are. I've come to learn how much safety is an issue for us. How being unsafe can cause us to do things that we don't want to do. That being unsafe has us seeing people around us in some situations as enemy before they are a friend. We say things like, I don't give my trust easily. But when I do, you have it for life. Until you break it. If you break it, that's it. You're out. There's no way back. We find ourselves as women, because we don't really fully appreciate what's driving our own thinking, behaving in ways, in teams, that is not helpful. I know an organisation right now that is struggling with the behaviour of a leader. And the leader is unaware of the team's perception of the leader. And what the women, in principle, are doing is judging and blaming. And the very funny thing is, what is your name? Yep, Victoria and Donna. So Victoria and Donna are sitting here in front of me, and I have a problem with Victoria. I think she's a bitch. And I go to Donna, and I say, oh my God, Victoria, have I just swapped your names around? I say to Donna, Victoria is so nasty. Have you noticed how rude she can be in those meetings? And Donna, who wants to build rapport with me, goes, oh yes, she is. And then your name? Sarah's listening into the conversation. So Sarah says, who are you talking about? Lots of chuckling in the room. Hands up have noticed this little phenomenon with women. If you remember nothing from my time with you, you put your hand, except your heart's on this side. My biology is fabulous. You put your hand on your heart, go and do it. And you say to yourself inside, I will stop doing that. I will stop doing that, because everyone loses. What it does is, it's like chocolate. It's like the things that we're addicted to, our mobile phones. It's that moment of addiction where we attach to something unpleasant, unkind, or diminishing of another human being. We create a little clique and we spiral down into the cauldron. And we become a bunch of witches brewing and sniping about each other. And poor Victoria recognises something vital has shifted in our behaviour and she doesn't know why. So she starts to behave as if I've done something wrong, which reinforces my gossiping to Donna about her. So when that happens with 76 women on a ship, you begin to see how destructive it can be in an electrifyingly short period of time. So when I say to you, what I want must be what we need, when I say inside out, know who you are inside, and if it's causing problems in your family, with your friends, in your working space, then have the courage to say, I can do something differently here. I can think and feel something differently here, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And the motivation is for the greater good. And for the greater good is not changing the world, it's recognising in everyday tiny choices when you have this cruel internal voice that talks to you as if you didn't matter or as if you were the problem and critical of who you are, it can manifest in a behaviour that is unkind to others, not what we want, or approval seeking. So the greater good is whatever the next step is for you. It's whatever you see is possible for you to influence a constructive outcome with friends, with family, with team, with business, with community. So I want you to think about things you like about yourself. When you have got one thing about yourself that you really like, that you trust and that you rely on in life, put your hand on your head. One thing about yourself you like, you trust and you rely on in life. Put your hand on your head. I'm going to wait until everyone's got their hand on their head, by the way. I want you all to identify this. It's interesting to see how many women struggle. Come on. One thing about yourself. Okay, can some people from the audience volunteer something that you like about yourself? You laugh a lot. Oh, that's such a precious thing. What does that do for you? Good. Not very much of a grown-up makes you feel better. Laughter sends endorphins through the system, makes everyone feel good. Being around you when you're laughing must be heaven. Have you got a big laugh or a silent laugh? You've got a big one. How many people, what's your name? Abby. How many people know Abby? Does she laugh a lot? Is it funny? Does it make you laugh? Give me something else that you like about yourself, that you trust, that you rely on. Your values. Are you willing to share something about yourself that you value? Valuing friendships. That's something I trust in myself. How do you behave towards your friends as a result of valuing friendship? I'm out there with them, I'm checking up with them, and I'm being with them. Hands up who share that value. Okay. You know, in friendship groups, if there's not someone who has that, things get forgotten. Birthdays get forgotten. We know, sorry, what is your name? Kim. There are people in this room who don't ring up friends like that. They're much more achievement goal-oriented. And the Kims of this world ring up and say, how are you going? And there are other people, I have to confess, you have to watch out, Fabi, you could be one of them, who go, yes, what do you want? Anyone else do that? You're a bit goal-oriented. You assume there's a problem to be solved or something to be done. Hands up who do that? Let me see. Oh, there's 2 hands up. I don't believe you for a minute. So Kim brings a beautiful value to the people around her, which helps communities stick. Your friends are also the people you work with. It creates amazing working communities. Somebody else got something a bit different from those that they value and like in themselves. Benefit of the doubt. Hands up who do that in the room. Give people the benefit of the doubt. Okay. In contrast, hands up who really struggle to trust people once they've done something that you feel is wrong. Look around the room. So hands up who've done something wrong. Okay, you're in trouble. So giving people the benefit of the doubt is a gift, but it's not a gift if what you do is wait to see evidence of whether they're going to do the right thing or the wrong thing. Giving people the benefit of the doubt is about moving in, talking to them cleanly, and helping them have a voice at the table. No one, and this applies even to people who are in jail for crimes against an individual or society, no one knowingly does the wrong thing. When something happens that seems to you to be a mistake, I'm going to show you what's actually happening in your head in a moment. All right, I want you to think bravely about something you don't like about yourself. And when you've got it, put your hand on your head. It's a lot faster. Something you don't like about yourself, put your hand on your head when you've got it. You see how it shows up in life. You hear yourself talk about it and you don't like it. Okay, somebody's got 3 hands up on that one. Okay, I'll come over this side. Something from this side of the room that you don't... And now, by the way, I asked this question, but you're really safe, because whatever it is you don't like about yourself, you're going to find really good company in the room. So somebody on this side of the room, something that you didn't like or don't like about yourself. Yes? So giving them the benefit of the doubt that they hurt you again. So what is it you don't like about yourself in that? You're allowing them to hurt you. And how can people hurt you? What is your name? Kim, how? Is this a party trick? How many Kims in the room? Hands up. What kind of freaky fluke is this? Welcome, Kim. Kim, meet Kim. How can people hurt you? How can you allow people to hurt you? That you take personally. So you have the wisdom to recognise it's got very little to do with them and much to do with the way you process. Aha! We hadn't thought that way, had we? Hands up who also have that. Allowing people to hurt you more than once is an issue for you. Hands up. Okay, so we get into the domain of the way we talk about ourselves to ourselves. Often we think people are hurting us when they're not. They're doing something that may be hurtful, but often they're deeply unaware of it. And in your head, you have got a story about their intention towards you. And you respond not to necessarily what they do, but to how you read that story. I'll show you this in a moment. So Kim, wherever you are now, Kim, when someone hurts you, do you know it's true they're trying to hurt you? Okay. So I'm going to show you how to resolve this in a really constructive way, because all these are reflections of how we talk to ourselves. Another example from this side here in this third quarter. There are 4 parts to the room. I can divide. In this quarter, something that is different from that you would say you don't like about yourself. Yes? Don't? Great. And man, they can do that for all of us. Hands up who sometimes find that you want to do something, but fear takes over and controls your choices. Hands up. Hands up really high on this. I want you to see this. Hands up really high. Have a look around the room, because I know this one about women. So it's a very real and present fear for women. And, you know, the reality is, in part, it has a thousands and thousands of year old history when you have been, to greater or less extent, disenfranchised. When, you know, women through tens of thousands of years have experienced orders of abuse, sexual abuse and violence. That we carry a memory of being unsafe. But fear, which should be an ally to you, becomes an enemy. So what are you afraid of? And our fears are not the same. The fear is the same. The fear is a primary emotion. You have 6 emotions. They're the same for men and women, identical. What causes you to be fearful is different. So I'm going to come back to wherever our person was here. There. What is it that causes you to be afraid? What are you afraid of? Beautiful. Hands up who experienced that. What you're most afraid of is failing. Hands up. It's very interesting, isn't it? I want you to imagine, I assume many of you look after toddlers. Hands up who look after toddlers. Yeah. Babies? Yeah. Early childcare. Just seeing if I'm in the right conference. Okay. So, hands up who have children. Babies? Young children? Okay. So, I want you to imagine Joe and Sue have a little baby, Sally. Joe and Sue have a baby called Sally. She's 14 months of age. What do you know about children around the age of 14 months of age? What are some of the things they might be trying to do but not very well? Walk. And of course we all know that when they stand up to begin with, they look like drunks. Yeah? Wobbling away on those little chubby legs, nappy hanging down to their knees, belly hanging out. They don't care about anything. What do parents or healthy parents say to their children when they first stand up? Come on. Keep going. What else do they say? Well done, you can do it. And then they yell out, you know, Joe saw it, he goes, Sue, quick, Sally's standing. And Sally's just, you know, waving in the wind at this stage. And Sue comes to here, one step in front of Sally with Joe behind her, and she says, come on, sweetheart, come on, you can do it. And she puts her hand out. Now, Sally has no idea what's really going on at this stage, does she? But standing here, wobbling in the wind, she's feeling pretty good. Yes? So she falls over. What happens then? What do the parents say to her then? Well done! They scream joy and delight at the baby. They don't go, you stupid child! That's not how you walk. Have you been in the Finnegan? You know, we only do it to adults. We teach people to be afraid of failing. And I got to say, your name is? Nicole. I don't know of any way to be successful other than to fail repetitiously. So these are the stories that go on in our heads, and they translate into, because they're things we know about ourselves, they're ways we respond. So you may be in relationships. It may be in things that happen in your home. It may be in how you deal with conflict. It may be that you believe someone is intentionally trying to hurt you, or it may be a deep fear around your perception of failing. So you are unkind to yourself in a way you would never treat anyone else. Hands up who are aware of that. Sometimes you talk to yourself in a way you would not talk to someone else. Hands up. You know, oh, you are such a lard bucket. Oh, you're really ugly. You just got to face up to the fact you're truly ugly. The men need to close their eyes at the moment in the room. Hands up the women who've had that sort of conversation with themselves. You don't like what you look like. Hands up. Hands up high. Go on high. Put them up. Look around the room. Hands up who are completely and entirely satisfied with what you look like. Hands up who say things to themselves like, God, you're stupid. You know, whatever you do, don't respond to any of Fabian's questions. Because everyone will look at you and you know whatever you say will be stupid. Hands up who've ever felt that, including today. So it translates into a massive break on potential. Now, I love helping women, and I'll show you a little bit short in a short moment. No, in a while is the sentence I'm tracking for. In a while, what we do with childcare. But I want to say that the things I say about myself that I like are evidence of you knowing how to be deeply constructive about yourself. The things you don't like about yourself are stories you've built about yourself that are often not helpful. It is not helpful to say, I fear failure, and be stuck with it. It is not helpful to say to yourself, I fear letting myself be open to hurt. Another way of saying I fear failure is I love learning and I know that it shits me when things don't work out, but I keep going. Another way to say when I feel hurt, every time I feel hurt, there's a lesson in it for me. What do I learn about myself? But that's not our predisposition. Our predisposition is like a loop tape going on in our head, saying the same thing over and over again until someone like me rocks up and gives you what's called a pattern break. You start to think about yourself differently. So I thought it would be interesting for you to know what women generally worry about, things that concern them. So on your seats was a piece of paper, a handout, which gave you, and I give it to you with love, and I trust if you use it in any way, just acknowledge its source. This is from over 1,000 women who have done our women's program, Compass. These are the areas of concern. So with a pen in your hand, I'm going to invite you to identify which ones are true for you. 2 minutes. Which ones are true for you? Just get a pen and mark it. Which of these concern you? And for the men in the room who very generously are listening to a very biased presentation, much of this can apply to men, but not so consistently. And because the bulk of my work is actually with mixed audiences, predominantly men, there's a whole other bank of things that men are concerned about that aren't in there. So for the men, it's a great insight into what women worry about. And if you own a childcare centre and you're a bloke in the room, you've got a really interesting window into what a lot of your staff may feel. As soon as you've scanned through and identified 2 or 3 things that really do pop up for you, stand up, and I'm going to show you a little activity we're going to do. So as soon as you've identified 2 or 3 things, hop up. That worry you, concern you, preoccupy your thinking. Thank you. Just when you're ready, hop up. When you've got a couple there, just quietly stand up. You're done? Just stand up if you've done it already. Don't wait for everybody else to stand up or you'll be all seated. Stay standing up. When you've got 1 or 2 or 3 that you think are true for you. have a quick scan through the whole thing. Just scan it. Yes, there's a lot of choices in there. Don't read them necessarily line for line, just sort of scan through. Find ones that you think really nail it for you. Okay, this is now most of you standing. So, here's what I want you to do. First of all, don't talk to people you work with, because you don't take anything different or precious away with you. You can talk to them tomorrow or Monday at work. Turn around to someone, 2 or 3 people, 4 people that you don't know, 6 people you don't know, and share what you highlighted and see what others think. A few minutes. Just quickly turn around. Don't sit down. Stay standing. It's good for you. Here, hop in with them. Or just jump on a group up there. It's good to go and listen in. Yeah, just go and join any group and hear how they process it. Yeah, just listen in. It's a great opportunity. Men in the room, get up and go and listen in. Listen in to a group you don't know. For the men in the room, go and listen in. Okay, and sitting down. So can we have some volunteers from around the room? Yes? Work-life balance. How many in the room identified work-life balance? Okay, commonly identified for women. So when you think of balancing, what do you think of? What does the metaphor conjure up? Just think of the perception of balancing. Okay, no, just think of, don't make it complicated. I'm balancing, what am I doing? And if I'm balancing, what can happen? I lose balance. The partner metaphor for women is juggling, and when you juggle, you will drop something. Hands up in the room who know you might have just a small smattering of perfectionism, the desire to have. So I'm going to put something on the table for you. Hand on your hearts again. Hands on your hearts. Stop using the juggling and balancing metaphors. I want to replace it with something radically different. You are unbelievably capable. You get shit done. It's the truth, isn't it? Hands up who know that about yourself. Hands up, put your hands up, high. How many of you really know you can get a huge amount done? So, once upon a time, women were really recognised for this, and an enormous amount of what we do is not currently really recognised. You know, there's a funny joke in terms of this balancing and juggling. And this is not true of all women, by the way, or all men. It's actually true for some men and not true for some women. But as a terrible, terrible gender stereotype, it's true for a lot of women. And you'll notice it. It's our turn to do the washing up. When we do the washing up for dinner, a lot of us, not all of us, there's already some of you laughing, we wash up. We stack the dishwasher, if we have one, very carefully. In this room, there are some people who have addictions for dishwasher stacking. Hands up the dishwasher stacker addicts. These are the buggers who come along and reorder the stacking after other people. And you go to them and you say, "What did you achieve?" And I've got 2 more plates in. Right, okay. So we wash up. We stack the dishwasher. We put the soap in the little tray in the dishwasher. We close it. And we do something miraculous. We turn it on. We dry up what is in the sink. We then do some really weird stuff that most people don't understand. We wipe the sink down very carefully and we empty the little sievey thing that's got those really disgusting bits of spaghetti and possibly some dog hair. Hands up who feel a compulsive desire to make sure the sink is properly cleaned down. And then we notice that the dog's water is running a bit low. So we put the dog's water, we freshen the dog's water because we're concerned that the dog or cat has not got fresh water. Hands up who do that. Yeah. Then we notice maybe just give it a little sweep of the floor. And then there are some people, perhaps more lads than lasses, who when they do the washing up, just wash up. You said wash up. Yeah, but what have you left in the sink? You didn't say clean the sink. My husband does that. He's a beautiful man, shares a huge amount of the domestic stuff. He's a saint. But when he washes up, it's disgusting what's left behind. Drives me spare. I come in, clean it up, do the floor, put the dog's water out, and can then complain bitterly about it. Balancing and juggling are terrible metaphors. I think it's time for us to celebrate what we're capable of doing and being very aware that is a massive piece of self-talk, and it turns us into torturers to ourselves and often torturers to others. You'll know it in the state you come home. You've held yourself together at work with 400 young people, staff. You've been incredibly constructive. You walk through that door and you become a dragon. Steam coming out of your ears. Who left that on the floor? Everybody runs for cover. We're so alike. So the thing I give to you is it's no good just saying we're alike until we start to do something about it. So I want to share with you the notion that what you think affects how you feel and vice versa. If you keep talking, balancing and juggling, then what you fail to do is take responsibility for the choices that you are making. Choices empower you. Balancing and juggling don't. You do a lot because you're capable of doing a lot. And then you do more because you didn't think about it. You just took it on board. You don't appreciate the power of no. And if you can't say no, then saying yes has no meaning. So some of the things that I think women in particular need to understand about the talk that goes on in their heads. Sense of self and negative self-talk are linked. If you worry about what other people think of you, then your internal dialogue will be, I'm not good enough. You know, people fundamentally don't like me. You do things to increase your safety by getting other people to like you more. If your self-talk is a fear around failing, then you don't see the repercussions of your behaviour on others because you're thinking about what it is you're trying to win at the expense of seeing how other people might respond to that. You worry about succeeding or winning at the expense of learning. And you do what's called false attribution theory. You attribute your success to that predisposition. No, it's just a break. It's just a self-talk break. The second one is your story will affect your internal dialogue. Now, I'm going to jump to the next slide, which I frankly have no idea how to do without showing you all the pieces. So I'm going to go through them all and I'll come back to that one. How you talk to yourself negatively often happens just in your own head. Hands up who are aware of that. If you have a way of criticising yourself, it all stays in your head. Hands up who know that's a truth. Hands up high. The negative self-talk often stays inside. I want you to put your hands up high because I need you to see this. We don't talk to other people about the things that we're afraid of in ourselves. It's one of the great insights around creating a positive frame for yourself. Positivity isn't rah, 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 and you heard some great stuff this morning about that. It needs you to know that saying stuff that is negative or problematical isn't negative per se. Sometimes it's crucially important to be able to say things that other people might not see as always positive. It can be constructive to say those things, and it's particularly constructive to get the dark side of yourself out into the light of day. So sharing out loud with someone you trust how you talk about yourself to yourself halves the impact of that negative self-talk. Is a trick psychologists know, because when you talk to a psychologist about your darkest secrets, they begin to lose their power over you. They begin to seem less real, less valid when you share it with someone else. Now, by the way, you don't want to go to someone when you say, "Oh, I'm so stupid," and they go, "Yeah, no, yeah." That will not help you. Ask other people about their self-talk. Don't pretend it doesn't exist, because it does exist. And it's one of the things in a community that are very isolated from one another, where I is valued over we, that we are not talking about this stuff together. And it loses its power when we share it. When you do that, I get scared. Oh, me too. I had no idea that's what you were thinking or feeling. When Jane comes in and gives us instructions for the week, I'm too scared to challenge her. Me too. And in those moments of me too, you hear truths about the way we behave and where our opportunities for change exist. Never be afraid to share a fear you've got inside, knowing that when you share it, it gets halved. And listen carefully and ask people about their self-talk, and you will find you're not alone. So we get a conversation started in the room about a fear of failure. Hands up in the room who said that's a fear you also have. Fear of failing, hands up high. Look around the room again. And suddenly you don't go, it's not just me, quarter of the room's got that fear. Well, isn't that interesting? Why is that dogging our footsteps? Habits of mine, same as eating and drinking, don't make the habit a truth for you. They are all stories. So repeating something inside, saying something about yourself, doesn't make it actually a truth about you. I have worked with hundreds and hundreds of women. I've worked with lots of women in the childcare sector. And I have watched that amazing letting go of the story we tell ourselves about ourselves and discovering that it is in fact just a story. But if you say it enough to yourself, about yourself, or about others, you've come to believe it's true. And for many of us, we're really well practiced at telling ourselves the story. So undoing it takes a bit of a job. You've got to be aware of the language you use. And then the trick of the trade is Byron Katie's famous 4 questions. So I tested it over there. I said, do you know it's true that someone actually sets out to hurt you? And the answer is no. So Byron Katie is a famous, we'll call her a therapist in the States, very gentle, very loving woman. And she poses 4 questions, which it is in your interest to have nailed in your memory. So pad and pen, you might want to write these down. When confronted by something you say about yourself to yourself, or something you say to yourself about someone else, when it's in a conversation with Donna about Victoria, Donna can say to me, Fabe, are you sure what you're saying about Victoria is true? And I, of course, in the heat of the moment go, absolutely sure it's true. And then she does something really amazing. She says to me, are you sure it's true? Is what you're saying true? And then if they say yes, you add in a second question, are you sure it's true? Because when confronted with perception or belief and asked whether something's true, the brain goes, well, I feel like it's true. or that's probably more useful. So you don't know it to be a fact, but you feel like it's true. And by the way, at this point, everything is about you. You're not really thinking about the other person. This is all in your head. So then when you've ascertained that it is definitely true second time round, you ask yourself, how does it make me feel believing this to be true? What do you know happens when you say something nasty to yourself that you believe to be true? How does it make you feel? Anyone in the room, when you say something nasty to yourself and you believe it to be true, how does it make you feel? Pretty shit. That is a professional term. How does it make you feel? Terrible? Bad? Hey? Worthless? It's a big one, isn't it? Worthless is a big one. Which was someone here? Anxious. Anxious is a big one. So Byron Katie's fourth question is, who would you be if you didn't believe it was true? And the magic of that fourth question is you can choose this. Is what I'm thinking true? Am I sure it's true? How does it make me feel believing it's true? And who would I be? How would I feel if I didn't believe it was true? Well, if I think about the thing that makes me feel anxious and I wasn't anxious in response to that, what would I feel? What would be something other than feeling anxious? Another emotional response to feeling anxious. If I chose to be something else, I could be relieved. Well, angry is going to take you into the same place. If I'm anxious or angry, and I say to myself, I don't want to feel that way, what is another version of anxiety? So you are sometimes anxious before your birthday party. You're sometimes anxious before a wedding because what are you anticipating? Something special. So often anxiety sits behind something that we want that can feel out of control. So what could you say to yourself? I don't really feel anxious, I feel... What was the word? Yell it out. I feel a little nervous. Is feeling a little nervous different from feeling anxious? Hands up who can see that that's a little bit different. So you begin to be aware of the language you're using and you start to say, I have control of it. Now that's easy to say. How do you actually do that? And here's how you do it. It's called Stop, Challenge and Choose. So I want to show you something. Have any of you done any mindfulness? Hands up who've done some mindfulness. Hands up who've never done any mindfulness. Hands up who don't even know what mindfulness is to say, I haven't done it. I'm going to show you something really interesting, and this is part of the trick of this called Stop, Challenge and Choose. You stop yourself when you're feeling something that is not useful. Everyone put everything out of your hands and on the ground. Put your feet firmly on the ground. Nothing in your hands. Put your hands on your knees. Sit upright. Do not lean back against the chair. Let your spine support itself. Sit upright. Everyone sit. Uncross your feet. Feet in a sort of 8 to 10 inches apart. In that upright position. Okay. Hands on your knees. Pad and pen out of your hands. Yes. Okay. Calm down and take a deep breath. I'm going to time this. Take a deep breath. As you do, for a moment, choose to close your eyes. Just close your eyes. The one thing you can always rely on is your breath. Breathe. Feel the cool air in your nose. If you're jiggling or giggling, let it pass. Just let it pass. Take a deep breath. Keep your spine straight. Sit up. Don't lean back on the chair. take a deep breath. And as you do, let the coughs pass you by. Cough to your heart's content. Just let it go. Don't worry about people coughing. Take a breath. And as you do, be aware of where you're holding tension in your legs, in your tummy, in your shoulders, in your neck, in your head. Take a big, deep breath. And let it go. And then, because I don't want you to go to sleep and stay there all day in a comatose state, open your eyes and come back. Now, anyone in the room, volunteer, apart from this desperate need to cough, how did that make you feel? And here we are with 300 or 400 people doing this. How did it actually make you feel when you stopped and you took a deep breath? Will you start to, hands up who are conscious of relaxing. Hands up high, I need you to see this. Okay, so you start to relax. What else did you start to notice? You're tired, then you need a rest. Being tired means you need a rest. Mindfulness and meditation are not the same thing. Mindfulness and sleep are not the same thing. Mindfulness is a fantastic tool for you. So when you're feeling stressed, when you're talking to yourself in a way you don't want, or you're thinking about others in a way you don't want, stop. That activity took 1 minute. Hands up who could feel a slight difference. Hands up high. 1 minute of breathing. Now, you can trust your breathing because when you're not breathing, you're dead and you don't know it. Just saying. So you need to give your brain some space. Stop, challenge yourself around your story. Your brain needs evidence that you can do this, and you can by generating 3 stories. 3 stories for yourself about an incident, about yourself. Now, I'll use myself as an example. Story number 1. You can scare people, Fabe. You're a bit too vocal and you're intimidating. Is that a useful story? No, okay. No, it's not. It's not for me. So story number 2 could be, you're really good with language and you're not afraid of talking to people. There's an opportunity to calm down. Number 3, actually that passion you have is really important for you, for people, and it helps them think about things differently. There's an opportunity for you to do that better. Which of those 3 stories is most useful? Hands up who think it's 3. So they're all made up. That's the magic. When you make up stories about yourself that are diminishing, you make up stories about others that are judgmental or unkind, they're stories and you made them up. So make up useful stories, kind stories, gentle stories, constructive stories. And if you can do 3 and you can choose the most useful one, your brain has what we call evidence procedure. It now has evidence that it has control over the stories it tells itself. So that's the trick of the trade. This beautiful quote, I know you all know it, but I never tire of hearing it myself. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people will not feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do it. It is not just some of us. It is in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give others permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Supporting women in this sector matters hugely to us. I've been doing it for quite a long while. They're just some of the childcare and early learning centres that we've worked with in the Compass program. There is a brochure in your folders. Go have a look. We do it because we believe it's a sector like nursing and education that needs visibility and needs women to feel more confident and more comfortable in their own skins. And I think if you need to contact us, there's our contact details. Love to you all. Thank you for having me.